this lesson, we're going to focus on graphs, primarily circle graphs, bar graphs, and line graphs. To understand a circle graph, we must first understand a sector. And all a sector is an area that is shaded in this diagram. It's bound by having two lines going from the edge of the circle to the center. Remember, one of those lines is a radius. So we have two radii, and then the outside edge or the crust of the circle is called the arc. Now the little equation that we have here, we're going to get into more detail about that later, but what they're doing is they're taking the percentage and they're multiplying that by 360. 360 is the total degree of the whole circle. If I'm going to multiply 30% by 360, I need to turn that percent into our decimal. So remember, I'm going to take the decimal and move it 2 places to the left. So it will be 0.3 times 360, and that will give me 108 degrees. Now remember, what is degrees? This is the measurement of the angle. So if we look at the angle, this is going to be larger than 90 degree, larger than a right angle. So this is 108 degrees. And we're going to actually be putting this into practice in just a little bit. Let's first look at the first example. And this is going to be very basic, and this is identifying, can you read a pie chart? Can you read a circle graph? Jane recorded the color of blouses she wore for over 2 weeks and showed it on a circle graph. She wore 5 pink blouses, 4 red, 3 aqua, and 2 yellow. What color did she wear the most? Well, of course, pink. What color did she wear the least? And of course, yellow is only 2, so yellow. But how much does the most exceed the least? If we have 5 pink, 2 yellow, 5 minus 2 equals 3. So pink exceeds yellow by 3. So that's very basic. Now, as you read these rules on making a circle graph, it might seem a little overwhelming at first. But what I'd like you to do is just break this down into some key parts. Number 1, find the total of the values. So you're going to be given a certain set of values. These values could be like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 numbers. What you're going to do is you're going to add up all the numbers together. So number 1, find the total. Add up all the numbers together. Once we find the total, we're going to divide each value by the total. So the total will go into each value, and that will give us the percent. But we don't have to always keep it or turn it into a percent. We can keep it a small decimal. Then when we have that small decimal or percent, we're going to multiply it by 360, and that's what we did on the first page. 360 is the total degree of the circle. Then we go ahead and draw our circle, include our radius, and then using a protractor, we're going to go ahead and figure out the degrees of each angle. So let's go ahead and take a look at an example. Example 2. Pete has a summer job in which he's mowing lawn. He's keeping track of how much money he's spending from the money he's making. There are a total of 6 categories. What you're going to do is you're going to take these 6 categories, which is $20 for tithe, $5 for snacks, $60 for soccer cleats, $50 for a paintball gun, $30 for a theme park, and $15 for a savings account. You're going to take these 6 categories and draw a circle graph. So let's take a look at how that happens. Now, I need you to go back to these 4 rules. Remember, what did we say? We need to find the total. So if we're going to find the total first, we need to add up all 6 of these values. 20 plus 5 plus 60 plus 50 plus 30 plus 15. That's going to give us 180. Now, once we figured out the total, we're going to actually divide 180 into 20, 180 into 50, 180 into 15. And remember, that's going to give us a small decimal. We can turn that decimal into a percentage, but I don't really need to do that right now. So let's go ahead and divide. I'm going to continue this on this page. And here are our 6 values. Let's divide 80 into 20. That gives me 0.11 or 11%. I'm going to divide 180 into 20. That's going to give me 0.11. Now, if I'm going to turn that into a percent, I move the decimal 2 places over, making it 11%, but I don't need the percentage right now. I'm going to go through and do that with all of these. 180 into 50, giving me 0.28. And then once I have all these numbers, what do I have to do next? The next rule is to multiply these by 360. So 0.11 times 360 will give me 40 degrees. Remember, the degrees refers to the angle. 0.28 times 360 equals 101 degrees. This is larger than a right angle, larger than 90 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and multiply all of these. All 6 of these will yield a total of 360 degrees. Here is my pie chart or circle graph, and this is Pete's spending. And of course, remember, in order to get this, I need a protractor to actually measure 40 degrees, 101 degrees, 29 degrees, 11 degrees. So I hope this makes a little bit of sense when it comes to those rules. Now let's take a look at bar graphs. Bar graphs are a little easier than the circle graph. It's a little more self-explanatory. But before you understand about a bar graph, you must understand about an axis. An axis is a reference line. This can be going horizontally or vertically. This can be on the bottom part or on the side part. What we're going to do is we're going to draw 2 lines, one horizontal, which is side to side, and one vertical, going up and down. We're going to choose a scale to fit the data, mark the equal intervals along one axis, so we're just going to record one of the axes. Then we'll identify the data items on the other axis. Now this is very easy. We're just basically writing down the parts on the bottom, which could be the days of the month or month of the year, and then on the side, what we're actually measuring in those months or days. Then we're going to actually measure and draw the bar that corresponds to each item of data. And then we have to title the graph. Now, a bar graph can be drawn horizontally or vertically. Now let's take a look at this example. Here's our data table. We're dealing with school subjects and then how many students. So taking that information, I'm going to make a bar graph. I need one axis that deals with the subjects, one axis that deals with the number of students. So I put the subjects at the bottom, and then I put the number of students on the side. Those are my 2 axes. I'm going to find math, 25 students. I'm going to reach that point and draw that bar graph. Science, 30. English, 20. History, 30. And Bible, 35. And then don't forget the title of the bar graph. Now, a bar graph can also be dealing with this information, these 2 axis points, but it can also compare boys versus girls. So you can have a double bar graph, and that would look a little bit like this. Same basic concept. I still have my 2 axes, but then I'm comparing things within those. Now the line graph is pretty much very similar to the bar graph. You're doing the same type of things. You're creating those 2 axis lines. You're measuring the information, you're plotting it, and then you're going to go ahead and title the graph. So let's take a look at this example. We're dealing with the months, and we're dealing with how many sit-ups. So one axis point is going to be identified by the months, and the other axis is going to be the number of sit-ups. This is what the line graph will look like. And we title it Kelly's Sit-Ups. And just like with the bar graph, we can have a double line graph, maybe comparing Kelly with another person.